Tokyo in the 1920s was a city where the ancient and modern coexisted, where steam trains bustled back and forth, carrying the vibrant rhythm of Japanese life. Amidst the bustling crowds at the lively Shibuya station, there was an image no one could forget. A small Akita dog with golden white fur, bright eyes, and an extraordinary patience. The dog's name was Hachiko, and its story transcended time, touching the hearts of millions around the world. That morning, the Shibuya sky was a clear blue, with gentle sunlight streaming onto the cherry blossoms along the roadside. The sound of a train whistle signaled the beginning of a busy new day. Passengers hurried through the station gates, clutching their suitcases, their minds preoccupied with unfinished tasks. But amidst the bustling crowd, Hachiko sat quietly on the familiar wooden bench. The dog paid no attention to the surrounding noise. Its gaze was fixed on the station's exit, as if waiting for something very important. Passers-by would sometimes stop to smile at it or gently stroke its soft fur. They didn't know its name, but its presence had become a familiar part of daily life. Hachiko hadn't always lived in Shibuya. Its story began in a small village in Akita Prefecture, where it was born with the simple name Hachiko. Even as a puppy, Hachi stood out with its intelligence and striking appearance. But its destiny truly changed when Professor Hidesaburo Ueno, an agricultural researcher at the University of Tokyo, decided to adopt it. From the moment Hachi first met the professor, it immediately sensed the warmth of this quiet man. Somehow, an invisible bond was formed between them. To Professor Ueno, Hachi was not just a pet, but a companion and a member of the family. Every morning, Hachiko accompanied Professor Ueno to Shibuya Station. When the professor boarded the train to work, Hachiko stayed outside the station, patiently waiting. In the afternoon, as the last train of the day arrived, the little dog eagerly ran to greet its owner, its tail wagging non-stop. This routine repeated day after day, becoming an essential part of their lives. To the professor, Hachiko was a source of comfort after long hours of work. To Hachiko, Professor Ueno was its entire world. The locals around the area began to notice the special bond between Hachiko and the professor. Many referred to Hachiko as the Shibuya dog, a small symbol of friendship and loyalty. The days spent with Professor Ueno were the happiest of Hachiko's life. Their bond was not merely one of owner and pet, but a testament to a connection that transcended words. Hachiko didn't know that in a short time, its life would change forever. Yet, the love and loyalty it felt for the professor became the driving force behind a story that would cross all borders and stand the test of time. Hachiko didn't know that fate had chosen it to become a symbol of loyalty. But this little dog, with its enormous heart, accomplished something few could, waiting for 9 years just to keep an unspoken promise to its dearest friend. This journey touched not only the hearts of Shibuya's residents, but also resonated across the globe, offering a lesson in love and patience. Tokyo in the 1920s was a city where the old and the new coexisted. Steam trains wound their way through bustling streets, carrying the energy of a nation on the rise. Traditional wooden buildings stood alongside Western architecture, creating a unique blend of the past and the present. Randolph Tomer's wife, Christine, had purchased the home. Amidst this backdrop, Shibuya Station was more than just a transportation hub. It was a place where everyday stories unfolded. From early morning, as the sun began to rise, crowds of people bustled to catch their trains. The sounds of train whistles, the grind of wheels on tracks, and the chatter of commuters formed a lively symphony that echoed throughout the city. At that time, Shibuya Station was modest compared to the modern hub we see today. There were no electronic boards or automatic doors. Everything exuded a simple, familiar charm. On the platform, cast iron lamps cast a soft yellow light at night, illuminating wooden benches worn smooth by the passage of time. Amidst all this bustle, every morning, a well-dressed older man in a neatly pressed suit appeared without fail. This man was none other than Professor Hidesaburo Ueno, a quiet yet warm individual known not only for his dedication to his work, but also for his special bond with his beloved dog. Professor Hidesaburo Ueno was an agricultural researcher at the University of Tokyo. He was renowned not only for his significant contributions to his field, but also for his kind-hearted nature and deep affection for animals. One winter day in 1924, Professor Ueno received a special gift from a friend, a small Akita puppy, just a few weeks old. The puppy, with its soft golden-white fur and intelligent eyes, immediately captured the professor's heart. He named the dog Hachi, which means 8 in Japanese culture. Later, he would decapulate the creature and find it as many forms as possible, a number symbolizing good fortune in Japanese culture. From the very first day Hachi stepped into the professor's home, it quickly became an indispensable part of the small household. The dog followed him everywhere, from his study to his morning walks to the station. Hachi wasn't just a pet. It was a loyal companion. Each morning, Hachi would accompany Professor Ueno to Shibuya Station, sitting quietly by his side until the train departed. Every afternoon, when the train's whistle signaled the last arrival of the day, Hachi would be there, its bright eyes lighting up as it ran toward the professor, as if greeting a long-lost friend. Day after day, this routine became an integral part of their lives. For Professor Ueno, Hachi was more than a dog. It was a kindred spirit with whom he could share his most tranquil moments. That thinking takes people to a catacomb, where they hope to cry if they are sad forever. No one in the Shibuya neighborhood remained unaware of Hachiko. The little dog quickly won the hearts of everyone, from street vendors to station workers. People adored Hachiko for its gentle demeanor, patience, and unshakable loyalty. The locals began to notice Hachi's routine. Each morning, it saw the professor off to the train, and every evening, it returned at the same time to greet him. They started calling Hachi the Shibuya dog, and over time, it became a cherished part of daily life in the area. Shibuya Station was not just a meeting point for people. It was a place that held the most beautiful memories between Professor Ueno and Hachiko. Each arriving and departing train, each season of cherry blossoms falling along the paths, all bore witness to the special bond between the two. But this station, filled with so many joyful memories, would also become the site of an irreplaceable loss. No one, not even Hachiko, could foresee that one day, the last train would not bring Professor Ueno back. Hachiko had no idea that its peaceful life and familiar routines were about to change forever. Yet, in the face of unavoidable trials, the little dog's loyalty would surpass all barriers, crafting a story that would inspire admiration around the world. Shibuya Station in the morning was always bustling, filled with crowds of commuters, the echoes of train whistles, and the sounds of a city on the rise. Amid this rush, the sight of a well-dressed, middle-aged man carrying a leather briefcase and calmly making his way to the station alongside a small Akita dog had become an essential part of the daily scene. Hachiko, with its golden white fur gleaming in the sunlight, always walked close to Professor Hidesaburo Ueno. The two seemed to share an invisible bond that transcended the boundary between human and animal. To outsiders, they were simply a man and his pet, but to the professor and Hachiko, their relationship carried a much deeper meaning, a friendship built on trust and unconditional love. The life of Professor Ueno and Hachiko was shaped by simple yet meaningful routines. Each morning, the professor walked Hachiko from their home to Shibuya Station. While he purchased his ticket or chatted briefly with station staff, Hachiko would sit quietly by his side, its bright eyes following his every movement. When the professor boarded the train, Hachiko didn't leave right away, but patiently watched until the train disappeared from view. Hachiko would then return home, but never failed to come back to the station in the afternoon, arriving just in time for the professor's train. Rain or shine, through cold winters or sweltering summer days, Hachiko waited, its tail wagging lightly at the sight of the familiar figures stepping off the train. Each time, the professor would bend down to pat Hachiko's head and smile warmly before they walked home together. Wanko. It was a simple ritual, but its repetition brought them joy and strengthened their unique bond. Something made her smile as she said, "What are the names of the people you sent us to inspect earlier?" In their small house near Shibuya Station, Professor Ueno spent most of his time with Hachiko. In the evenings, after finishing his work at the university, he often sat in an armchair in the living room, reading or writing, while Hachiko curled up by his feet. Sometimes the professor would quietly set his book down and gaze at his dog. He knew that to Hachiko, he was more than just a master. He was the entire world. And to the professor, Hachiko was more than a dog. It was a loyal companion, always by his side no matter the circumstances. On weekends, the two often took walks around the neighborhood. Hachiko's enthusiastic steps always drew the attention of passers-by. Children in the area would stop to pet its soft fur, while adults smiled at the dog's gentle demeanor and endearing presence. Although Hachiko couldn't speak, every small gesture expressed its understanding and care for the professor. Each morning, as the professor prepared to leave home, Hachiko would stand by the door, its eyes seemingly asking, "Are we going together today?" And when the professor nodded, Hachiko would eagerly run over as if understanding that this was the most important moment of the day. The professor reciprocated this affection with kindness and attentiveness. He often brought home treats that Hachiko loved or spent time playing with after a long day at work. Whenever he patted Hachiko on the head, the professor would softly say, "Thank you for being by my side, Hachiko. You're the greatest gift I've ever had." The relationship between the professor and Hachiko wasn't just known to their family, but became a story shared widely in the neighborhood. Residents of Shibuya Station were well acquainted with the sight of Hachiko patiently waiting for the professor every afternoon. Station staff often gave Hachiko a bit of food or a bowl of water, and many passers-by stopped to chat with the dog as if it were an old friend. One day, a station employee remarked, "It's rare to see such a loyal dog. Watching Hachiko every day reminds me of the value of loyalty." Hachiko wasn't just the professor's dog. It had become an indispensable part of life for everyone in Shibuya. Those peaceful days brought joy to both Professor Ueno and Hachiko. For the professor, returning home each evening to see Hachiko waiting at the station was one of the happiest moments of the day. For Hachiko, every trip to the station, every pat on the head, and every kind word from the professor was all it needed to feel fulfilled. But life often brings unforeseen challenges. Amid this happiness, fate quietly prepared a monumental event that neither Hachiko nor the professor could avoid. Every beautiful story seems to have a moment when fate intervenes, altering everything. For Hachiko and Professor Hidesaburo Ueno, that moment arrived on a morning that seemed no different from any other. The soft sunlight bathed Shibuya's streets, and cherry blossoms fell gently in the breeze, creating a serene scene as though nothing could disturb the peace. But fate is often unexpected, and sometimes the unforeseen carries with it an unspeakable sorrow, a loss so profound that only time can begin to heal. That morning, Hachiko, as usual, accompanied the professor to Shibuya Station. The little dog walked closely beside him, its eyes gleaming with joy as it listened to the professor's gentle words. "Hachi, be good at home. This evening, I'll bring back your favorite treat," the professor said, patting Hachiko's head before boarding the train. Hachiko stood outside, its eyes fixed on the professor's figure as he disappeared behind the train doors. As the train began to move, Hachiko waited a little longer, as if to ensure the professor was safely on his way. Then it turned and headed home, secure in the knowledge that they would reunite in the afternoon. But that evening, the train did not bring the professor back as it always had. At the University of Tokyo, while lecturing, Professor Hidenaburo Ueno suddenly collapsed. A stroke had claimed his life on the spot, leaving no time for a final farewell or any parting words. His colleagues and students rushed him to the hospital, but all efforts were in vain. In China's most remote parts of Beijing, almost as though the visitor recognized him right away, Freddie had run out of time. At the party, news of the professor's sudden passing spread quickly, bringing profound grief not only to his family and friends, but also to everyone who had known him, a man of dedication, warmth, and kindness. But among all those people, perhaps no one felt the loss as deeply and silently as Hachiko. Although Hachiko couldn't speak, every small gesture reflected its understanding and care for the professor. Each morning, as the professor prepared to leave home, Hachiko would stand by the door, its eyes seeming to ask, "Are we going together today?" And when the professor nodded, Hachiko would eagerly run over, as if knowing this was the most important moment of the day. The professor responded to this affection with tenderness and thoughtfulness. He often brought home treats that Hachiko loved, or spent time playing with after a long day of work. Each time he patted Hachiko's head, he would softly say, "Thank you for being with me, Hachi. You're the greatest gift I've ever had." The relationship between the professor and Hachiko wasn't just known within their family, but became a widely shared story in the neighborhood. The people at Shibuya Station were accustomed to the sight of Hachiko patiently waiting for the professor every afternoon. Station workers would often give Hachiko a bit of food or a bowl of water, and many passers-by stopped to chat with the dog as if it were an old friend. One day, a station employee remarked, "It's rare to see such a loyal dog. Watching Hachiko every day reminds me of the value of loyalty." Hachiko wasn't just Professor Ueno's dog. It had become an indispensable part of life for everyone in Shibuya. Those peaceful days brought joy to both Professor Ueno and Hachiko. For the professor, returning home each evening to see Hachiko waiting at the station was one of the happiest moments of the day. For Hachiko, every trip to the station, every pat on the head, and every gentle word from the professor were all it needed to feel content. But life often brings unforeseen challenges. Amid this happiness, fate silently prepared for a great event that neither Hachiko nor the professor could avoid. Every beautiful story seems to have a moment when fate intervenes and changes everything. For Hachiko and Professor Hidesaburo Ueno, that moment came on a morning that seemed no different from any other. Gentle sunlight bathed the streets of Shibuya, and cherry blossoms drifted softly in the breeze, creating a serene scene, as though nothing could disturb the peace. But fate is often unexpected, and sometimes the unforeseen brings an unspoken sorrow, a loss so profound that only time can begin to heal. That morning, as usual, Hachiko accompanied the professor to Shibuya Station. The little dog walked closely beside him, its eyes sparkling with joy as it listened to the professor's kind words. "Hachi, be good at home. I'll bring back your favorite treat this evening," the professor said, gently patting Hachiko's head before stepping onto the train. Hachiko stood outside, its eyes following the professor's figure as he disappeared behind the train doors. As the train began to move, Hachiko waited a little longer, as if to ensure the professor was safely on his way. Then it turned and headed home, secure in the belief that they would reunite in the afternoon. But that evening, the train did not bring the professor back as it always had. At the University of Tokyo, while giving a lecture, Professor Hidesaburo Ueno suddenly collapsed. A stroke took his life on the spot, leaving no chance for a final farewell or any parting words. His colleagues and students rushed him to the hospital, but all efforts were in vain. News of the professor's sudden passing spread quickly, bringing profound grief not only to his family and friends, but also to everyone who had known him, a man of dedication, warmth, and kindness. But among all those people, perhaps no one felt the loss as deeply and silently as Hachiko. That afternoon, Hachiko returned to Shibuya Station as usual. The little dog sat on the familiar wooden bench, its eyes fixed on the station exit, waiting for the professor to appear. Trains came and went, passengers streamed out one after another, but the one Hachiko was looking for never appeared. The train whistle blew for the last time that day, signaling the departure of the final train. The sun sank below the horizon, leaving a quiet night in its wake. Yet Hachiko remained there, its tail curled around its legs, eyes unwavering from the station doors. Locals familiar with the sight of the loyal dog began to notice. "Where's Professor Ueno today?" a woman whispered. No one knew that the professor would never return. In the days that followed, Hachiko continued its routine of returning to Shibuya Station every afternoon. Each time the train whistle echoed, the little dog stood up, ears pricking with hope. But each time disappointment became evident in its eyes. Unable to care for Hachiko, the professor's family sent it to live with a relative in the countryside. But Hachiko refused to stay. It escaped from its new home, running dozens of kilometers back to Shibuya, the place where it believed the professor would return. Hachiko's actions moved many. The locals began to care for it, bringing food and water to the little dog, but they understood that no meal or words of comfort could replace the presence of the friend Hachiko was waiting for. Time is a remarkable test, capable of wearing down everything, from faded memories to seemingly unbreakable bonds. But for Hachiko, time only deepened its loyalty and resolve. Over 9 long years, the little dog continued to sit at Shibuya Station, each day mirroring the one before, holding on to a hope that never wavered. Not just from babyhood, but from childhood. Even after Professor Ueno's passing, Hachiko continued to return to Shibuya Station every afternoon at the exact time of the professor's usual train. Its eyes scanned every passenger stepping off the trains, searching for the familiar figure. But each time, it saw only unfamiliar faces and hurried footsteps, leaving Hachiko alone on the platform. Gao. The locals around Shibuya Station began to notice. At first, they thought perhaps the professor was simply away for a few days and would soon return. But as days turned into weeks, and weeks stretched into months without the professor's return, they realized Hachiko was waiting for something that would never happen. Every day, regardless of the weather, Hachiko came to Shibuya Station. In the winter, as snow blanketed the platform, its fur became soaked, but Hachiko sat silently, its eyes glued to the exit. In the summer, under the scorching heat, it rested in the shade of a tree near the station, its ears perking up at every train whistle. The station staff and local residents gradually accepted Hachiko as a part of their daily lives. One station worker regularly brought leftover food for Hachiko after his shift. Street vendors nearby occasionally tossed it a rice cake or a bone. And while Hachiko received care from those around it, the dog never truly left its spot, the place it had claimed as its own to wait for the professor. Hachiko's story quickly spread beyond the Shibuya neighborhood. Passengers who frequently passed through the station began sharing tales of the loyal dog that waited daily for its owner's return. Local newspapers wrote articles about Hachiko, calling it the faithful dog of Shibuya Station. The story touched many hearts. Strangers, upon hearing the news, came to Shibuya just to catch a glimpse of Hachiko. Some brought food, while others simply stood quietly from a distance, observing and feeling the boundless patience of the little dog. Hachiko, with its calm demeanor and eyes filled with hope, seemed unaware that it had become a living symbol of loyalty. Over 9 years, Hachiko witnessed countless changes at Shibuya Station. New buildings rose, neighborhoods modernized, and familiar faces gradually disappeared. Yet for Hachiko, nothing seemed to change. Each arriving train, each footstep on the platform, was another opportunity to see its beloved friend. Each passing season left its mark on Hachiko's body. It grew older, its fur lost its former sheen, and its movements became slower. But despite everything, Hachiko continued to wait, as if its loyalty transcended the physical limitations of its aging body. The residents around Shibuya didn't just sympathize with Hachiko, they felt a special bond with it. The little dog became more than just a character in Professor Ueno's story. It was an inspiration to all who knew its tale. They fell for its life story that went a little something like this. Once, an eternity, there was a boy named Kanyashiku, Mayama. Many said that Hachiko taught them the value of loyalty and unconditional love. A street vendor shared, "Watching Hachiko every day, I realized that sometimes we must learn to wait, even when the hope seems faintest." Hachiko didn't know that Professor Ueno would never return. But the little dog never gave up hope. Every day, it appeared at Shibuya Station, believing that today might be the day the professor came back. Hachiko was not just waiting, it was fulfilling an unspoken promise to its dearest friend. End of Chapter 3. For 9 years, Hachiko's journey of waiting wasn't just an act, but a vivid testament to love and loyalty. And while no one could say whether Hachiko understood concepts like time or loss, its actions transcended all boundaries, touching the hearts of everyone who heard its story. Waiting for 9 years is no easy feat, even for humans. But Hachiko, with its immense heart, proved that loyalty knows no bounds of time. A cold winter day blanketed Shibuya. Snow fell heavily, transforming everything into a serene white landscape. The frigid air crept through the buildings, clinging to every street corner and rooftop, but it didn't deter Hachiko from its routine. The little dog, now aged significantly, still appeared at Shibuya Station at the usual time. Its once golden fur was now streaked with gray, and its once strong legs had grown slow and unsteady. Yet Hachiko's eyes remained bright, filled with hope each time a train approached. This was the final morning of a long journey, and for Hachiko, it marked the closing chapter of a timeless story. That day, Hachiko left its shelter at sunrise, as usual. The station workers, long accustomed to the loyal dog's presence, greeted it with smiles, offering some food and water. Hachiko, as always, acknowledged their kindness with gentle eyes before turning its gaze toward the station's entrance. Snow continued to fall, blanketing every corner, but it didn't stop Hachiko's weary legs from making their way to the familiar bench. The dog curled up to shield itself from the cold, its eyes scanning the crowd of passengers with unwavering hope. Hours passed. Trains arrived and departed, but once again, the figure Hachiko longed to see did not appear. As night fell, the people around Shibuya Station noticed that Hachiko had not moved. A station worker approached and found the little dog lying motionless by the bench, its eyes peacefully closed, as if in a deep, tranquil sleep. Hachiko's face looked serene, as though it had finally completed its mission. The entire station fell into an unusual silence, starkly different from its usual hustle and bustle. Locals and station staff who had shared so many years with Hachiko stood in quiet mourning, realizing the loyal dog had passed away. News of Hachiko's passing spread quickly. The people of Shibuya, from those who had known Hachiko personally to those who had only heard of its story, expressed profound sorrow. Hachiko had been more than a loyal dog. It was a symbol of unconditional love and devotion. Hachiko had no life besides being with Hachiko. Hundreds of people gathered at Shibuya Station to bid Hachiko a final farewell. Flowers, candles, and messages of gratitude were placed at the bench where it had spent so many years. Some wept openly, while others shared Hachiko's story with their children as a way of preserving its memory for generations to come. Following Hachiko's passing, the community decided to erect a bronze statue at Shibuya Station to honor the loyal dog. The statue was unveiled in 1934, just 1 year after Hachiko's death, and quickly became a lasting symbol of loyalty and unconditional love. Every day, visitors from around the world come to see the statue, leaving flowers and taking photos as a way to pay tribute to Hachiko's timeless story. Many say that standing before the statue evokes something profound, a reminder of the values of attachment, love, and loyalty that we often overlook in our busy lives. Although Hachiko has left this world, its story continues to live on in the hearts of people everywhere. In Japan, Hachiko became a national symbol of loyalty, featured in textbooks, films, and even popular culture. Globally, Hachiko's tale has touched the hearts of millions. It is not just a story about a dog, but a poignant reminder that love and attachment transcend the boundaries of time and distance. The last image of Hachiko resting quietly beside its familiar bench, eyes closed in serene peace, stands as a testament to timeless loyalty. Hachiko never gave up hope, and in its unending wait, it wrote a story that words alone could never fully capture. Though Hachiko is gone, its story remains alive. Each day, at Shibuya Station, beneath the bronze statue, the tale continues to be retold, a small but enduring flame warming the hearts of those who believe in the power of love and loyalty. As Hachiko's story comes to an end, those who hear it are left with more than the memory of a loyal Akita dog. They are touched by something deeper, something that resonates in their hearts. The story isn't just about waiting or loyalty. It's a powerful reminder of unconditional love, boundless attachment, and the value of patiently waiting for what truly matters in life. Hachiko knew nothing of time or loss, yet the little dog kept its unspoken promise to Professor Ueno. Day after day, season after season, year after year, Hachiko returned to Shibuya Station, believing that one day its beloved friend would return. This simple act carried a timeless strength, reminding us of the meaning of loyalty in all relationships. In a world where things often change rapidly, Hachiko's story teaches us that some values never go out of style, like dedication and loyalty. These virtues exist not only between humans, but also in the seemingly simplest relationships, such as that between a dog and its owner. The love Hachiko had for Professor Ueno required no words. It was a feeling that transcended species, language, and time. Hachiko needed no promises from the professor, but still devoted its entire life to waiting and loving. The story reminds us that sometimes the most beautiful love doesn't need to be spoken. It's found in small acts, quiet presence, and the steadfast patience we show toward those we care about. Hachiko waited for 9 years, through cherry blossom seasons, summer rains, and winter snowstorms. It was a long journey requiring immense patience and unwavering trust. In an era where everything seems to happen in an instant, Hachiko's story reminds us of the power of patience. Some things in life don't come immediately. At times, we must wait, trust, and not give up, because the most valuable things often take time to come to fruition. Most mistakes in life are due to mistakes in judgment. Hachiko was more than just a loyal dog to Professor Ueno. During its 9 years of waiting, the little dog became an integral part of the Shibuya community, connecting people through its moving story. Local residents, station workers, and even strangers found inspiration and warmth in Hachiko. This story reminds us that in our most challenging moments, it is our connection with those around us, be it humans or animals, that helps us overcome pain and rediscover meaning in life. Hachiko's story also serves as a gentle reminder not to take the present for granted. The peaceful days shared between Professor Ueno and Hachiko, the simple routines of walking together or bidding farewell at the station, became the foundation of their special bond and the driving force behind Hachiko's 9-year wait. Often we are so consumed by daily worries that we forget to cherish those around us. This story urges us to slow down, spend time with loved ones, and savor the simple yet meaningful moments in life. Though Hachiko has passed on, its story lives on. From the bronze statue at Shibuya Station to movies, articles, and retellings, Hachiko has become a symbol not only for Japan, but for the world. This story is not merely a legend, but a profound lesson for all of us. It teaches that loyalty, unconditional love, and patience are not only admirable virtues, but also values that can transform how we perceive life. Hachiko was more than a dog. It is a symbol of unspoken love, boundless loyalty, and the strength of waiting. Within each of us lies a piece of Hachiko, a heart ready to love and sacrifice unconditionally. Let this story remind us that in a world full of changes, eternal values still exist if we choose to see and feel them. At Shibuya Station, the bronze statue of Hachiko stands steadfast, its eyes gazing into the distance as if still waiting for something. The streams of passers-by, local residents, and international visitors alike pause to admire the dog that has become a symbol of loyalty and unconditional love. Flowers, candles, and even handwritten notes surround the statue, expressing gratitude and emotions for this profoundly moving tale. In late afternoon, as the golden hues of the sunset enveloped Shibuya, the statue glowed warmly, evoking a sense of peace. It was as if Hachiko's presence still lingered, quietly reminding everyone that love and loyalty never fade. They transform into memories, stories, and lessons that endure. Though Hachiko is no longer here, its story hasn't ended. Every day at the statue, people recount the tale of the dog that waited for its owner for 9 years. Children gaze up at the statue, asking their parents about its meaning, and learn that love needs no promises and loyalty expects no reward. In the eyes of those who hear the story, there is awe and admiration. A young couple places their hands on the statue, silently wishing to love and remain devoted to one another forever, just as Hachiko stayed true to Professor Ueno. Hachiko's story has inspired many to live better lives. People who had grown apart sought to rebuild their connections, and those who had forgotten the value of love began to appreciate the present moment. The tale also sparked greater compassion toward animals. Animal rescue organizations in Japan reported a significant increase in adoptions after Hachiko's story gained widespread attention. At Shibuya, a young girl leads a small Akita puppy to the statue. She smiles and whispers, "We'll be best friends forever," just like Hachiko and Professor Ueno. The little dog wags its tail, its eyes gleaming in the evening light. And there, amidst the flow of modern life, Hachiko's story lives on, like an undying flame. Though Hachiko is gone, the love and loyalty it left behind remain as a gentle reminder that no matter how the world changes, the most beautiful values will always endure. The story of Hachiko is more than just a touching tale. It is a powerful reminder of the simple yet invaluable values in life. Hachiko taught us that true love requires no reciprocation, loyalty knows no bounds of time, and faith can endure even in the most challenging circumstances. The image of Hachiko patiently waiting for Professor Ueno at Shibuya Station for 10 years has become an eternal symbol of unconditional love. From a small dog, Hachiko left behind an immense legacy, touching the hearts of millions across the globe. Let Hachiko's story inspire us to cherish the relationships around us, live with love, and believe in the good, even when life is difficult. Thank you for taking the time to hear this meaningful story. If you feel moved or have found a personal lesson in it, share the story to spread the spirit of loyalty and love that Hachiko embodied. And remember, sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest significance in life. See you again in the next story.